History has it that the first seafarers to land on Madagascar between 1,500 and 2,000 years ago had sailed from the shores of Indonesia or East Africa. They set foot on this bountiful island whose flora and fauna were like no other. Some call it the continent island because of its size. Others call it the Great Red Island, owing to the color of its soil. It is also the island of diversity, a naturalist's paradise, the island of 18 ethnic groups. In other words, Madagascar can offer everyone a very different face. As the plane begins its descent to Antananarivo, passengers discover a country where each valley floor is home to lush rice fields. The cultivated land ends where the capital's outer suburbs begin. In the heart of Antananarivo, Sarashot's bird sanctuary is the perfect spot to observe Madagascar's avifauna.
That's a duck. It isn't the season.
No, they usually leave. They're the only ones that will stay. The 1 or 2% that will nest here. Most have left to nest elsewhere.
Is that a common waxbill?
Yes.
Sonia Ranarivel came to Madagascar when she was 9 years old. She's been surrounded by nature since a very tender age. In 1988, she and her husband set up an ecotourism travel agency.
In 1 week, you can see 3 distinct regions. Enjoy different climates, go to the coast. The West Coast, the East Coast and the Plateau are all different. I love the fact that I can experience such diversity every day.
Heading north from the capital, you cross the high plateaus. This is the main island's granary. To begin with, most of Madagascar was covered in forests. 85% of this ecosystem has disappeared. The main culprits are bushfires, slash-and-burn agriculture, and the use of charcoal for cooking. Just 2 hours from Antananarivo lies one of the last vestiges of the primary forest, the Anzuzurube corridor. It's a haven for nature lovers. Mananare Lodge is a balcony overlooking the forest. Sonia's latest creation, this camp opened in 2007, far from the roads and the noise. Local guides recruited in the surrounding villages regularly accompany scientists or nature-loving tourists.
This is a Caluma brevicornis, or short-horned chameleon. It's a female. She's about to lay her eggs. She is digging a hole in which she will deposit and bury her eggs.
Chameleons could well be the symbol of Madagascar's endemism. Over 60 of the 80 known species in the world are to be found on the main island.
Visitors to Madagascar are interested in the environment, not luxury hotels, competitive prices or shopping. They come for our biodiversity, and because they are aware that this biodiversity is under acute threat. Sadly, there is a lot of talk about the destruction of Madagascar. It is not acceptable for tourists to judge the Malagasy and say that it is they who are destroying the island. We finally understood the Malagasy have to feel concerned about protecting the lemurs. If they don't have food to eat or wood for heating, if they don't understand the long-term impacts, you can't stop them. You can't fence off the forest. This is why we've moved beyond the notion of ecotourism. Now we're talking about sustainable tourism. It's a broader concept, and it better encompasses the problems of our tourist product in Madagascar.
The east coast of Madagascar is bathed by the waters of the Indian Ocean. The Pangalan, a very humid lagoon zone, stretches 600 kilometers along the coast. It's a kind of green Malagasy version of Venice. The Pangalan Canal forms a network of man-made and natural channels connecting a series of freshwater lakes. The rough waters of the Indian Ocean make navigation impossible. Begun by the French in 1940, the channel was supposed to provide a navigable passage between Tamatave and the far southwest of the island. Since then, it has partly silted up. The inhabitants of the coastal strip live mainly from fishing. When the force of the ocean allows, the Betsi Misarak fishermen brave the rollers in their tiny dugouts. They wait patiently for a break to dodge in and out of the waves. By the canal, life is far more peaceful. The water's mirror-like surface is barely broken by the dugout's wake. It's a long, quiet canal. The canal and the lakes are full of fish. Local women use nets to catch small protein-rich alevins, which once dried will go into sauces. Small gardens provide cassava and the leaves of the bread plant. Malagasy cuisine uses a lot of these leaves. Crushed or boiled in water, they accompany most dishes. Close to the village, the Palmarium, a private reserve, not only boasts an outstanding botanical collection, but also a dozen species of lemur that roam free on its 50 hectares. Mr. Romeo, the ranger, is a skilled imitator, and he attracts the lemurs by perfectly mimicking their calls. the center of Madagascar stands G.E.I.E National Park, a cragged mountain range sculpted by the forces of nature, a tangle of canyons, a succession of barriers. The history of this oasis in the midst of this semi-wild and remote setting has been written by the Colombier family, who have lived in Madagascar for 2 generations. This complex blends harmoniously with the stony, preserved landscape and was built by teams of Malagasy craftsmen who were trained in masonry. Anne Colombier, her 2 brothers and her husband Laurent employ the inhabitants of the neighboring village of Ranouir.
We employ over 200 people. 130 work in 2 hotels and 80 on the building sites.
For the people of a village like Ranouir, it's an opportunity to learn a trade. If they then want to leave us and work elsewhere, they'll find employment in any of the island's hotels.
Narrow canyons for trekking and wide open spaces for riding. The Asalo Massif would not look out of place in a western. But for a while, its future was in jeopardy. Blue fever, a thirst for sapphires, gripped the area.
The first sapphires were found in 1998. It was like the gold rush. Basically a small village with 20-odd inhabitants, in a matter of weeks, was overrun with bush taxis rather than stagecoaches, full of miners who were coming to settle in the area. As this is a tourist region centred on the national park, a protected area, we were rather horrified to see all these people moving into the area all of a sudden. They're looking for sapphires right next to the park.
The landscape now resembles an enormous Swiss cheese. Tons of ochre earth had to be cleared to reach the deposit located in the river's old bed, some 30 meters under the ground. When the rumor spread that the deposit extended into the park itself, the army moved in, and the latent feeling of insecurity caused by the bloody settling of scores between traffickers scared away the tourists. Marc Novaraz deals in precious stones.
People used to buy the sapphires on mats in the street, with sports bags full of money, in 4-wheel drives and so on. There was no security whatsoever. Then wooden houses were built, followed by brick houses. And now Ilakak is a big town. It isn't the Wild West anymore.
Life in Ilakak revolves around sapphires. The tourists have returned. There are tours to the open-cast mines, and the streets are lined with stores selling precious stones.
Most of the sapphires in Ilakak are pink or purplish pink. This rainbow line shows you all the different colours of the Ilakak sapphire, from pink to blue to green to yellow, with all the tones and half-tones. So it's quite exceptional and typical of the Ilakak deposit.
In the end, a certain balance was found. Mining is now confined to the area around the town of Ilakak, and the park is majestically serene once more. On Madagascar's west coast, by the Mozambique Channel, a bar of white sand runs alongside an emerald green lagoon for over 100 kilometers. This is the home of Vezo, a new destination for lovers of deserted beaches and crystal clear waters.
The new bungalows will be here.
How many are you adding?
5 bungalows.
Right on the beach?
Yes, and maybe a suite.
Sonia is organizing the tourist season, and she has come to see Michel and Philippe Kotsoyanis. The couple have lived in Madagascar since 1993. A trained architect, Philippe was looking for somewhere to build an environmental hotel.
When I discovered this place, I didn't look any further. It was just what I was looking for. It was even better than I'd imagined. I had no idea, even though I knew Madagascar, such places existed. So we stopped here.
Here, tourist activities revolve around the sea, lazing on the beach, swimming, and trips in traditional dugouts to visit the Vezo fishermen. The word Vezo means he who paddles. The Vezo live off the ocean's resources. They fish out at sea by following the shoals or in the lagoon on traditional dugouts with outriggers. The men surround the shoal with their boats and close in on the fish. These remarkable free divers hunt for fish underwater without flippers and spear them with assegais. A little way inland, the track cuts through a forest of prickly shrubs. Philippe is taking Sonia to discover a botanical curiosity.
These are classic baobabs, the type you see most often. Those we're going to see are spectacular.
They're already big and leafy.
The baobab is by far the strangest tree on earth. Its branches resemble roots. Some people even say it grows upside down, or that God planted it that way.
Let's have a look at these. It's a fabulous group. An entire family. They're squat but very wide.
Yes, at the base.
Madagascar is very definitely the home of the baobab. 6 of the 9 known species in the world grow on the main island alone. The sun will soon set over the horizon. It's time to call it a day. With the wind behind them, the fishermen hoist their sails for the journey home. The entire village turns out on the beach for the fishermen's return. The women come to collect the evening meal. Any remaining fish is gathered up and sold in the villages inland. If there is one Malagasy word that travellers will remember, it is mora mora, slowly, slowly. The Malagasy way of life, full of gentleness, kindness, and a pleasant nonchalance.